Hey guys, it's Goosebumps Completionist, and today I'm bringing you a book review from the 6 R.L. Stine novellas originally released in the year 2000. And the book in question for this video is going to be The Creatures from Beyond Beyond. I'm going to say this off the bat. If you are a fan of graphic visual horror / body horror, or you like old school sci-fi stories, this story definitely will do it for you. It is kind of wonky and out there. This is an R.L. Stine book. There's parts of this book that are tongue-in-cheek. There's parts that set up some characters in a weird way that really don't make sense in the grand scheme of things. But ultimately, I really think this story stood out from anything I've ever read by R.L. Stine. This definitely pushes the envelope further than I think most stories can go with R.L. Stine. Is involving kids horror. You know, if he's writing for teenagers, young adults, he'll push that envelope. But for like the 13 and under demographic, this is pretty standout. This book has a lot of notes reminiscent to Series 2000, so I'm highly confident that this was supposed to be potentially the book after The Incredible Shrinking Fifth Grader if Series 2000 ever kept going. This feels like a second draft. There is wonky moments, like the characters don't have last names. It's kind of jumpy. It feels like some stuff could be cut out or elaborated or fixed. But for the most part, you know, it worked, I must say. You might recognize the cover art. It is the same cover art used for Goosebumps Live on Stage Screams in the Night. So during the review, if you notice that, I'll go ahead and confirm that. Yes, it is. So let's get into the plot overview without giving too much away. So in this story, a family is deciding to take a vacation to a small town. Primarily because the mother and father like to take destination vacations once a year, and they'll swap houses with their house where they're from, and they'll go to wherever they're swapping houses with and stay there and take in the area, you know, shop in the shops, go to the local sites, the local attractions and whatnot. So the kids, Randy and Tyler, they're fraternal twins. Randy's the girl and Tyler is the boy. They get to this house in this town called Blaringville. Now, Blaringville is a town that's set up as a cookie-cutter small town in the middle of nowhere. All the houses look the same. You got one shopping center / shopping mall, and that's basically it in the town. And when they get to this house, they start to unpack and load into the house, and Tyler picks the cool room that's obviously like the room where the kid live, like the boy kid that usually lives there you know, that's his room. There's like comic stuff all on the walls, etc. You know, so just a really cool decorated room. And Randy's room has a bunch of these creepy dolls just all across the room on these shelves. Some of them are porcelain, some of them are like rubber, some of them are very human-like. And she feels really upset that Tyler gets to claim the cool room and she gets stuck in the doll room because she's a girl. But she can't really do anything about it. Now, Randy pretty quickly discovers this really weird doll on the top shelf in her room. It's lights out time. She's getting prepared for bed the first night they're there. And this doll is so human-like she has to go check it out just to see what it is. And when she goes and stands on a chair to look at it, the doll has like realistic feeling skin, and it's like warm to the touch. And there's this black box on the back of its neck. When Randy touches the box, the doll seems to grow in size. She's dumbfounded by this, and she doesn't want to wake everybody while they're sleeping. So she quietly tries to signal her brother Tyler to come in the room and check it out because she doesn't want to wake up her littlest brother Alex and her parents and get in trouble on the first day of vacation. So when Tyler comes into the room. She shuts the door and says, "Hey, look at this doll." And they mess around with the black box on the doll, and the doll comes to life and crawls under the bed and tries to hide, presumably, but it's messing around with something under the bed. And this noise that's being generated under the bed is so loud it wakes up their parents. And their parents, basically say, "Tyler, you need to go back to your room. Randy, you need to stop making so much noise. It's bedtime. It's vacation. We know you might be riled up, but, we just got to get some sleep." So Randy signals to Tyler, "We'll talk about this tomorrow." So the next day comes and goes. Randy can't believe that she got sleep throughout the night dealing with this doll. What happened was, before they went to bed, they put the doll back on the top shelf, and then Randy dozed off. And then when they woke up, the doll was still there. So Randy goes downstairs in the morning. Everybody's already up, and the parents say they're going on a jog, which was a very funny scene describing the parents' jog suits. It's like the very reflective jog suits that I used to remember seeing in like the late 90s, early 2000s, and I think this story definitely fits that time period, because riding on the bus every morning, like in like second or third grade, you'd see the joggers, and they had the highly reflective stuff, and they would be reflecting the headlights and the tail lights from the bus. So yeah, I got a kick out of that scene. But the parents leave for a jog, and they leave Alex at the house with them. And she signals Tyler to, check out the house while the parents are gone. There's this room, kind of reminiscent to the story How to Kill a Monster. There's like this do not enter room, except it's a closet. And they go up to this closet, and they hear a bunch of hissing and scratching and whatnot. And they're really creeped out. They have to figure out how to open the door. They find a set of keys downstairs in the kitchen, and they open the door. And when they open it up, there's this cat that immediately bolts out and runs runs to the front door downstairs and out of the house. And they notice how the cat got in, and there was a broken window inside of the closet. But while they're in the closet, they notice all these strange gadgets with these black boxes on them. And when they touch the black boxes, the gadgets grow. For example, there's like a frisbee, a spike ball, and stuff. And they think this is so cool. They want to use these as props because they have been, over the past few years, here and there, spotty filming, wherever locations they're at. They're trying to film like a at-home, home project horror movie. And they thought that these would be great props. Randy tells Tyler we should put them back and, try not to touch them or break anything. And they said, we'll come back to this room later. But now that we know that these gadgets have the black boxes, we need to go back to that doll and see what's up with that. Maybe the doll knows some information about these gadgets. So late at night, Randy's and Tyler's parents decide to go out on a date night. They leave the house, and they preemptively go up to the doll room and tie up the doll around a sheet, and got some bungee cords to trap it. And then they push the black box to let it grow to normal size. When it happens, the doll is like, "Where have I been? What year is it?" Yada yada. Gives his name. He has a name, and his name is Brad. And he's basically confesses to them that aliens turn him into a doll. And this is pretty far-fetched for Randy and Tyler to believe, but they really have no choice, because the doll, aka Brad, reveals that since he signaled the thing under the bed last night, these aliens are going to come down and try to capture him and the other kids so they can turn them into dolls and take them to their home planet and kind of treat it like a live lobster, type of situation where you go to a restaurant and you pick out a live lobster to eat. That's what they do on their home planet with human children. So the kids are freaked out. Brad says we maybe have a couple minutes to get out of here. But they look out their window into the backyard and they see a flying saucer has landed in the backyard. So the aliens have come to get them. And they get this idea to escape through the secret closet. The aliens can't find them in there. And they get out, narrowly escaping by jumping to a tree and climbing down. They also have to take their little brother Alex with them. And they bolt out of the house after having a couple close calls. The aliens catch sight of them. And mind you, the aliens are supposed to look like this lizard creature right here. So if you actually see that, you would be terrified too and running for your life. But they escape to the shopping mall because they know people would be there and nobody can find them. Like the aliens won't go there and like openly expose themselves kind of thing. So they go in the mall and they hide in this arcade. And then they notice their parents walking around the mall. They try to flag them down and tell them the truth. Brad happens to be with them. But what happens is the parents are actually mad. And, because Alex is like traumatizing. Oh, there's giant lizard people, acting crazy. The parents think that they were feeding the kid horror movies and tried to ground them both. And then Brad, coaches Tyler what to say. And the parents forgive them and unground them. And Tyler begs his parents to have Brad stay the night. Now, this is where the story starts to get very weird. And as you can probably guess, it has a lot to do with this guy, Brad. So, they get to the house for the sleepover. And off the bat, Randy starts to notice that Tyler's acting very strange. Like he's almost robotic. Kind of like not sentient to his normal sentience. And she's like, it's been a long day. I'm going to go to sleep. And just let Tyler and Brad have their fun. The next morning comes around. Tyler, Alex, and Randy are watching Saturday morning cartoons, and they're all eating bowls of cereal, but she starts noticing that Brad is pretending to eat the cereal, like he'll pick up a spoonful and then drop it right back into the bowl. She notices this odd behavior with him throughout the day. And then they go outside to examine where the flying saucer was in their backyard, and when she goes back there with, her little brother Tyler and Brad, she sees that Brad has a true form. And you can kind of guess what that is. Now, I don't want to get into anything else because it'll start to spoil the rest of the story. But in a nutshell, Brad plays a psychological game with Randy and basically forces her to be his lab rat so he can make a brand new human body so he can stay on the planet Earth. And there's a big revelation that Brad reveals to Randy. I don't want to spoil because it has a lot to do with the ending as well. But in a nutshell, it gets very dark dealing with Randy being a lab rat for Brad. Not to mention the body horror that goes on with Brad. He has a degenerative state going on in like the late middle to last third of the book that is very descriptive and gross. But it's effective. It does offer a lot of horror. And let's just say, near the end, there's a monstrosity that gets made, kind of like in Mary Shelley's Frankenstein almost. And Randy's able to use the monster to her advantage. And the ending is kind of a happy ending for Randy in a way. And it's almost like a optimistic way of looking at the situation after the whole story took place. And that's basically, in a nutshell, The Creatures from Beyond Beyond. Now, the strengths on this book is it was just well put together. The characterization of Randy was amazing. Seeing the ups and downs throughout the story was really good. Brad as a villain really worked and was very disturbing at the same time. One of my favorite villains I've ever read in an R.L. Stine book. Tyler was a really good supporting character. Alex, the little brother, was very sympathetic. The parents actually weren't complete buffoons in this story, which, you know, good job, Stine, for writing pretty decently written parents. They didn't matter all that much, but when they were in the scenes, they didn't, like, dumb it down or anything. It was pretty good. Now, the negatives I have with this book, there's one drawback. And that drawback is the idea of Brad being a doll and then making it that Brad is a alien. The doll to an alien stretch doesn't really sit well with me, because I don't know why Stine decided to go that route. It's basically elaborated on in the story that the reason why Brad was a doll on the shelf was because the owners of the house actually had caught the aliens and used their own technology against them. But it still doesn't make sense to Brad's degenerative state in the later part of the book, and it just felt kind of wonky, and I felt like maybe this was a draft because of that. I feel like there needed to be some exposition to explain why the case was for Brad. But that's a pretty big plot hole in the story I found. But other than that, everything else was pretty solid. So, getting into the rating, if I had to rate this thing from a 0 to 5 stars, I think I'm going to give it a 4.5 or higher. I think this was a very exceptional read. If I had to put a number on it, I think I'm going to give this a 4.7 out of 5. I'm just going to deduct 0.3 off for the plot hole. It worked, especially in the end. I really liked the degenerative state going on with Brad, but it just didn't make sense getting to that point. So yeah, that's Creatures from Beyond. Let me know in the comment section if you have read this book. Did you love it or did you hate it? I'm dying to know, and I'll see you next time.